Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, colleague to colleague, we're looking at a deeply resonant piece of writing from Ellen Tift's powerful book series, There's a Word for That. Specifically, we're going to explore a single life-changing chapter titled All In, when giving from your heart and soul feels like your only setting. I want to start right off the bat with this question, because if your answer is yes, you are absolutely not alone. We are navigating some really tender material today about the deep, sometimes paralyzing exhaustion of overgiving. Because this is such an incredibly familiar, hidden pain for so many of us, I really want to take care of your heart as we unpack it together.
To guide us, we're drawing from an incredible chapter in fellow survivor and author Ellen Tift's book, Navigating Complex Trauma and What It Does to You. Ellen has done a masterful job taking the research of trained clinicians and bringing it into a deeply relatable, compassionate space for us to understand.
To help us really relate to this experience, the chapter opens with a story in the subheader section titled Lucille's Letters, and it might feel a little too close to home. We meet Lucille, a part-time art teacher. It's 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, and she is up pouring her absolute soul into 23 handwritten, deeply personal letters for her students to get ready for parent night. She's writing out exactly who she sees these students becoming. She is literally putting her whole heart on paper. Then Thursday comes. Lucille hands these beautiful packets out. But on her way out the door, she passes a hallway trash can and stops dead. Sitting right on top is one of her packets, unopened, thrown away. Shortly after this crushing moment, sitting in her car, she gets a vague email from her superintendent about setting up a meeting regarding new protocols. Between the trash can and that single word, protocols, Lucille's nervous system goes into a devastating 4-day internal spiral, convincing her she's about to be fired. She is hit with the suffocating feeling that she had, once again, been too much about something that wasn't enough. To help us understand people like Lucille, Ellen Tift coined the empowering terms all-in and all-inner. In the section covering what to expect from the chapter, she wants readers to understand that having an enormous heart, where your only setting is giving everything you have, is simply a beautiful trait. It is not a pathology. It's not a clinical condition that you need to cure. You are not broken for caring this much. But while the trait itself isn't a condition, it does have roots. In the section called The Joy is Real, So Are the Roots, Ellen references established clinical research to explore where this intensity comes from. And just to be clear, these are established concepts outside of Ellen's unique work. She points to hyperempathy, where a person physically absorbs the suffering of others. She notes the redemptive impulse, which is that fierce drive to fix suffering because you know exactly how it feels to suffer alone. And she discusses contingent self-worth, a concept widely studied by psychologists where your entire value feels tied to your impact and what you can produce for others. These established clinical roots often blossom into this beautiful but exhausting all-in trait. It's also super important to distinguish this from the established clinical survival strategy known as fawning. Fawning is fundamentally about safety. You make yourself useful to prevent someone from harming you. But the all-in impulse has a completely different engine. You pour into others because it feeds something in you that needs feeding. It's a relentless sprint toward dignity and meaning, hoping that if you just pour enough of yourself out, maybe the world gets a little bit better. So how does this set us up for so much pain? In the section titled The Exposure Gap, What You Give versus What They See, Ellen introduces a brilliant term she coined specifically for this experience because there actually wasn't a clinical term for it. She named the devastating distance between what you pour into a gesture and what the other person is able to perceive, the exposure gap. You see, the person receiving your gift just sees a physical object, like a packet of papers on a desk. They are completely unaware of the hours of soul and physical energy you attach to it. And that gap creates a massive, devastating vacuum. Think about what happens right after the giving ends. For an all-inner, when the intense joy and anticipation finally fade, your nervous system is left totally vulnerable. That empty space is suddenly filled with a quiet, irrational humiliation. Even when the giving goes perfectly well, you might suddenly feel incredibly exposed, replaying the event and wincing, thinking, oh man, was I just too much? In this section titled, What Your Body May Be Trying to Tell You, the Physical Cost of Being All In, We learn that your body literally keeps the score of this chronic exposure. This is exactly why, over a totally vague 12-minute administrative meeting, Lucille experienced burning trapezius muscles, persistent low-grade nausea, a jaw cringe so tight her teeth ached, and paralytic exhaustion. Her body was mounting a massive stress response to an imagined threat.
There's a metaphor written into the chapter here that just perfectly captures this cruel physical toll. It describes this state as an engine revved to redline that never got put into gear. Lucille's body had mobilized for a massive emotional release. She felt like she needed to cry for 4 days straight. But the release never actually came, because the threat of being fired wasn't real. It just left her wrung out, flattened, and totally paralyzed by the false alarm. Okay, so let's move forward and see how this builds into some actionable hope. In the subheader section titled Living with It, What Helps?, the chapter offers some incredibly gentle tools to survive this without losing that beautiful empathy. It suggests naming the somatic panic in real time, literally telling yourself, okay, this is just my nervous system filling the vacuum. It asks us to accept that people might just receive our gifts imperfectly, and that is perfectly okay.
We also absolutely have to focus on building a reserve tank for ourselves. The chapter reminds us, quite forcefully, that you cannot draw from a dry well. Finding moments where nothing is asked of you, like just taking time to sit on the porch and listen to the rain, is maintenance. It is not an indulgence. It is essential survival. And I promised I'd share how Lucille's story concludes at the end of the chapter. A week after that awful parent night, she gets a text from the mother of Umberto, a quiet student she'd written extensively about in one of those letters. The mother wrote, "Nobody has ever said those things about him before. Thank you for seeing him." And for the very first time, instead of instantly deflecting the praise, Lucille reads it 3 times. She takes a screenshot to save it, and she just lets that validation sit quietly in her chest. Sitting on her porch that evening, for Lucille, the internal math finally starts shifting. She realizes she's given 20 years to an institution that, as the chapter's metaphor puts it, receives her effort like weather, totally unremarkable until it stops. With that realization, she gains the clarity to become selectively giving. She decides to preserve her energy for things that actually belong to her, and for the specific students she loves, instead of blindly pouring into institutions that offer her absolutely no safety net. If this resonated with you, I enthusiastically encourage you to get your own copy of Navigating Complex Trauma and What It Does to You, so you can read this entire chapter and so much more. You'll want to truly sit with Ellen Tift's insights. Also, definitely be on the lookout. A corresponding Reader's Companion book will be available very soon. It is perfectly designed for book clubs, support groups, and individuals who would love some guided questions and reflections from each chapter in the book. As we wrap up our time together, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to carry with you today. What would it look like to let your enormous, generous nature just be beautiful without making it the relentless evidence that decides your worth? Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today. Take gentle care of your hearts out there.